She thought she was making a stand against hate when she marched across the cafe to confront the man in the MAGA hat. To her, he was everything wrong with the world, a symbol of division that couldn't be ignored. But what began as a self-righteous outburst would end in humiliation when she learned who he truly was. What happened next changed both of their lives in ways neither could have expected. It was a dazzlingly bright morning in downtown Austin, the kind that makes even the busiest urbanites slow down to appreciate the crisp blue skies and golden sunlight filtering through the cafe's glass facade. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the chatter of patrons, creating a lively but pleasant hum inside Elm Street Cafe. Known for its local charm and ethically sourced menu, it was a popular spot for professionals, students, and early risers with time to linger. Among them was Karen Whitaker, a woman who thrived in such spaces. In her late 40s, Karen radiated the energy of someone perpetually ready for a cause. Dressed in impeccably coordinated yoga attire, a sleek navy set with gold accents and pristine white sneakers, she carried herself with purpose. Her brown hair was pulled into a tight, no-nonsense bun, and her makeup, though minimal, highlighted her sharp cheekbones and clear complexion. In one hand, she held her eco-friendly reusable cup, ready to receive her oat milk latte, while her phone was clutched in the other, her social media feed alive with debates about climate change, equity, and political reform. Karen prided herself on her vigilance. Where others saw casual moments, she saw opportunities to stand up for what was right, or, in her mind, to call out what was wrong. Today seemed routine, at least at first. She had just finished placing her order at the counter when her gaze landed on him. Sitting at a table near the cafe's center was a man who, to Karen, seemed utterly unremarkable, at least at first glance. Mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed, his attire was simple but tidy, a crisp white button-down shirt tucked into dark jeans, paired with polished brown loafers. But there it was, sitting boldly atop his head, instantly transforming the mundane into the infuriating, a bright red, "Make America Great Again" hat. Karen felt her pulse quicken. To her, that hat wasn't just fabric and stitching. It was a battle flag for everything she stood against. The sight of it sent a jolt through her, setting off an inner dialogue that quickly escalated into a need for action. How dare he wear that here? In this cafe? Does he even understand what that symbol represents? The man was oblivious to her growing fury. Sitting with his laptop open, he appeared focused on whatever filled his screen. Occasionally, he would glance at his coffee cup or tap at his keyboard. His posture was relaxed but purposeful, like someone engrossed in work. Karen didn't hesitate. Clutching her latte order ticket, she marched toward his table, her sneakers squeaking slightly against the polished floor. A few patrons noticed her determined stride and exchanged knowing glances, sensing that something dramatic was about to unfold. The man glanced up as Karen arrived, standing over him with her arms crossed. Her shadow fell over his table, but he didn't seem perturbed. "Excuse me," she began, her voice loud enough to draw the attention of nearby tables. "Do you think this is appropriate?" The man raised his eyes from his laptop, his expression calm, as though she'd asked him about the weather. "I didn't realize having coffee and working quietly was a crime," he replied in a measured tone. Karen let out an incredulous scoff. She shifted her weight to one hip, her stance a portrait of defiance. "It's not just coffee," she snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "That hat represents oppression, hate, and—" Before she could finish, a barista awkwardly stepped in, holding a steaming latte. "Ma'am, here's your drink," the young woman said softly, her wide eyes darting between Karen and the man. Karen barely acknowledged her, waving her off with a quick flick of her hand. "Thanks," she muttered, keeping her gaze locked on the man like a predator stalking prey. The man, seemingly unfazed, returned his attention to his laptop. This simple act of dismissal infuriated Karen further. The fact that he wasn't engaging, wasn't defending his actions, made her feel as though he was mocking her. The cafe grew tense. Patrons whispered amongst themselves, stealing glances at the unfolding scene. A few discreetly held up their phones, recording from behind cups of coffee or angled screens. The soft clinking of cups and the hum of conversation had ceased, replaced by a heavy silence punctuated only by the hiss of the espresso machine. Karen's indignation only grew under the scrutiny of the room. She couldn't believe his audacity. The man had refused to justify himself, as if her opinion, her outrage, didn't matter. "What exactly are you working on?" she demanded, gesturing toward his laptop with a sneer. "Something divisive, no doubt." The man didn't look up this time. "Just a project," he replied coolly. "Not that it's any of your business." The exchange, brief but charged, seemed to draw an invisible line between them. Karen, fueled by self-righteousness, felt her mission intensify. Meanwhile, the man's calm demeanor served as a quiet counterbalance, frustrating her even more. "People like you," Karen started, but a patron near the back murmured, "Here we go again," drawing a ripple of hushed laughter from the crowd. Karen shot them a glare, her face flushing slightly before refocusing on the man. "This isn't over," she hissed, stepping back and clutching her latte like a trophy. She turned on her heel and stormed toward the door, leaving the cafe buzzing with murmurs and furtive glances. The man, finally alone again, smirked faintly and returned to his work, as though the interruption had been nothing more than a passing breeze. Little did Karen know, her outburst was the beginning of a confrontation that would leave her questioning everything. Karen, not one to back down, escalates. She pulls out her phone, starts live streaming, and labels her encounter "confronting hate." As her followers join in, she narrates her exaggerated version of events. "Here's a man spreading divisiveness in our community. We need to stand up to this." The man looks up and chuckles. "Ma'am, if you're done with your monologue, can I go back to work?" Karen snaps, "How dare you dismiss me? Do you know what people like you have done to this country?" He sighs, finally closing his laptop. "I know exactly what I've done for this country. Do you?" Karen's face reddens. Sensing she's losing the verbal sparring match, she does the unthinkable. She lunges forward, aiming to snatch the MAGA hat off his head. In her haste, she accidentally knocks over his coffee, spilling it all over his laptop. Gasps ripple through the cafe. The man stands, his presence commanding. He's not angry, but his gaze alone silences the room. Karen, realizing she's in over her head, blurts out, "I'm not sorry. You deserved it." "Good to know," the man replies cryptically before leaving the cafe with his drenched laptop. The live stream ends abruptly, and Karen walks out, convinced she's done something noble. A few days later, Karen attends a neighborhood committee meeting. The event is packed, with a special guest speaker announced to discuss local business growth and technology innovation. The air is buzzing with excitement as the moderator introduces him. "Please welcome Richard Kane, the principal investor behind Starlink and a driving force in modern satellite communications." Karen nearly chokes on her complimentary water. Walking onto the stage, looking polished in a tailored suit, is the man she confronted in the cafe. No MAGA hat this time, but the recognition is instant. Richard's presentation captivates the audience. He discusses the transformative power of technology, affordable internet access for rural areas, and even a partnership with Netflix for seamless streaming services. Karen feels the walls closing in as he concludes his speech. "I believe in progress, in giving people the tools to connect and grow, regardless of differences." After the applause, Richard scans the crowd. His eyes lock on Karen. To her horror, he smiles and motions her over. Karen hesitantly approaches, her bravado long gone. Richard, holding a glass of sparkling water, greets her warmly. "Karen, isn't it? From the cafe the other day?" "Yes," she stammers. "Look, about that—" Richard cuts her off with a polite but firm tone. "You're entitled to your opinions, Karen, but what you did wasn't just rude, it was destructive. That laptop had sensitive data for a satellite project that helps schools in underserved areas. Your activism cost me weeks of work." Karen's face flushes. "I didn't know." "That's the problem," Richard says, his tone softening but retaining its edge. You didn't know, yet you acted as judge, jury, and executioner. Maybe next time, think before you react. Karen stumbles over an apology, but Richard waves it off. I don't hold grudges, but I hope this teaches you something about listening and understanding before lashing out. The encounter goes viral as onlookers record Richard's classy takedown. Karen becomes the subject of online memes and hashtags like #KarenStrikesAgain. Meanwhile, Richard's reputation as a calm and composed leader skyrockets.